Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. I was just now dealing with the chev of the week and splitting it up into 3 different products, and I figured I would bring you along and show you. I do have a playlist about all the things that we make with our goat's milk, and honestly a lot of them have the same base, which is this. It's chev cheese. Initially we use salted chev as our cream cheese, and honestly as a ricotta replacement. I don't have a lot of success when I try to make ricotta, and chev cheese has been a really awesome substitute. Now obviously I didn't film my setting up of this chev, but I do have a video on that and I'll link it below. All I do is add a little bit of mesophilic culture to the milk and 1 drop of rennet inside some water. Mix that all together and let it sit for a day, and voila. I've got cream cheese now for the next time that I make bagels, which should be this weekend. And I've got 2 cups of the chev mixture salted in here, and I'm gonna make some ice cream. This ice cream is adapted from a recipe that came with our Ninja Creamy. It's our ice cream maker of choice. I love it. It allows us to keep our milk raw and our ice cream stays cultured, so it feels like a health food even though there's a bit of sugar. Even if it's a good bit, it's a bit, right? A little bit of bourbon vanilla in here, and then some milk up to the 4-cup line. I'm only doing a half batch of ice cream right now because somehow I still have some in the freezer, so I don't need to make a whole bunch. Take my immersion blender, turn it up. Glorious and smooth. The Ninja Creamy has these little cups that you use. It's part of how the system works. So gotta fill these up until the fill line. Whoops, make a mess or it doesn't count. There we go. Now I've got excess. I don't want to fill these higher than the fill line, but I do have this cup that's half full from this past week, and I can add the mix straight on top of that. You can also use this as a dip. It's very delicious with fruit. It basically tastes like melted ice cream because that's essentially what it is. And up next, we're going to be putting some yogurt together. I could also put this excess ice cream base in the yogurt too. These are going to go in the freezer and they'll be good for ice cream day. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the ice cream base does have a little bit of salt in it as well. All of this is made with salted chev, and I have some extra here. And I'm starting with chev as the base again. This is just whatever was left over from putting away the cream cheese, making the ice cream. We're going to turn the rest into yogurt. And I do have reserved whey down here. There's some in this bowl, and then I saved some to the side. I'm not going to need all of this. Essentially, what I want to do is add whey back to my preferred consistency for yogurt. And we like it pretty thick. I may want to make this just a tiny bit thinner than I really want because it's not refrigerated. This has been sitting at room temp for a couple of days, and as it sits in the fridge it will firm up. You can add sugar to sweeten this. I find that the sugar kind of remains more granular because this isn't heated up, and so we put some honey in. You want to just do this to taste. The honey mixes in very well. And of course it's delicious. And there's our texture as of right now. And there's a breakfast for this week. This whey here I'm going to hang on to because I will use it to make the bagels, the liquid part that's in the recipe, and I have a bread recipe too that either could take water, milk, or whey. So it looks like there's a couple cups for the chickens. Where is everybody else, dude? Chuk, 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 chuk. What are y'all doing? Come here, it's not bedtime. Chuk, 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 chuk. Come on. Might not be able to convince them. Hey, girl. Look at the cats. Maybe they want it. You guys want this? Here.
It's like raining and snowing.
I actually wasn't gonna pick up the camera today, but then it started slush snowing, which I've never seen before. It's not snow, it's not rain, it's not sleet. There's balls of slush falling from the sky. Isn't that bizarre? It has been a very long time since I made caramel out of our goat's milk. So that is the plan with today's milk. This has turned into a very dairy week. I'm usually getting about 3/4 of a gallon a day, so I decided I would just turn everything into the caramel called cajeta. So I strained it straight into the pot, got it heating up. They say that you should heat your milk at a medium to a medium high. I do quickly lose my patience and crank this later, but for now it's at a medium high, and I'm going to add 2 cups of sugar. I have also made this with honey and it does work well. 2 sticks of cinnamon, this is optional but more traditional, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And again, all these amounts are for the amount of milk that I am using today, which I didn't measure, but it's around about 3/4 of a gallon. We're going to heat this slowly and stir frequently. The reaction of the milk with the baking soda takes a little while, but it can get very frothy, so you want to use a bigger pot like I have here. Some recipes tell you add half the amount of milk that you want for the recipe initially to react with the milk, just so your reaction is less intense, if that makes sense, and then after the baking soda has a chance to react to the milk, you can add in the remaining milk. But in my experience, if you use a big enough pot, it doesn't matter. This evening, I'm multitasking again while dealing with milk, and I am making a spaghetti squash taco bowl. I have some ground venison here and one of our spaghetti squash that we grew in the greenhouse this last year, and it is delicious. Served with salsa and herbs. I actually used some black eyed peas and some of our goat's milk Colby. It was so yummy. In the several times that I've made cajeta, I feel like sometimes it comes together really fast and sometimes it takes a while. It's taken as little as 20 minutes to get nice and thick for me before. That's usually what happens when I am using honey, but when using sugar, it can take 1 to 2 hours of simmering for everything to reduce down and thicken up. Remember, you just want to keep an eye on the thing and make sure that your milk is not scorching. You can really start to see a color change happen, and then eventually you will notice a texture change. And this will thicken up in the fridge some, and so all I'm looking for is for the cajeta to stick to a spoon. I actually put the spoons in the freezer, and then when I drop a little bit of cajeta onto it, it will solidify. And this is how I know how the cajeta is going to act straight out of the fridge, because that's how I'm going to be storing it. Looks like we got about 1.5 quarts, or 1 quart and 1 pint's worth of cajeta. So everything reduced down by about half, which I did expect. One of my favorite ways to use this homemade caramel is as a homemade coffee creamer. It is so delicious in coffee. It's the cream and sugar all in one, but even better because you've cooked it down and caramelized it, and that cinnamon adds a really lovely warmth that I think everybody should try. This day is actually the first day that we have tried cajeta on our homemade ice cream. So this is the ice cream that we set up earlier in the week. Just blitzed it up in our Ninja Creamy and drizzled on the cajeta straight from the fridge. Now, unlike a lot of store-bought caramels, this didn't harden up on top of the ice cream, but it was still lovely and luxurious and wonderful tasting. Actually, one of our kids said it reminded them a lot of the eggnog ice cream that I made in December. And you know what? It kind of does remind me of that. I think it's the cinnamon that lends to that flavor. Good evening. We are in my semi-dark kitchen getting something ready for breakfast. So I told you earlier that we were gonna make bagels this weekend. Today is that day. So we make a sourdough bagel and it needs to rise overnight. So we're starting it right now when it's dark. The recipe that I use is out of this book, Artisan Sourdough Made Simple. This has been a lovely book. Everything that I have made out of this book has been excellent. And I'm going to be doubling the recipe for Sunday morning bagels. I'll make sure to put the single recipe in the description box so you have that. A lot of recipes for breads and things are in grams, and you can do that. That is more exact. I find that bread and other baking can be a lot less fuzzy than is stated a lot in recipes. I have been eyeballing and kind of guesstimating and using scoops of flour out of the bucket for several years at this point, and my baking has never disappointed. So I encourage you, if something like bagels sounds really complicated, try to relax a little bit. There really is wiggle room when it comes to baking. So I'm doubling the recipe. It says to put 3/4 cup of Bubbly active starter. I'm going to put 1.5 cups. Again, it's going to be roundabout. And before we move on, I am going to feed my sourdough. I've had this exact same sourdough starter going for, I think this is the 3rd winter at this point. Her name is What's-Her-Face, and What's-Her-Face has treated us very, very well. I've only got a little bit down here. Doesn't matter. She's going to do great. Feeding of the sourdough is another thing that I don't measure. I just put usually about 2/3 cup of flour in, and I just went over to my water filter and put in a little bit of water. I'm looking for a very thick pancake batter consistency. They do say that if you're going to either put in too much flour or too much water, err on the side of too much flour. I think that is a little bit too much flour still because it's not shaking down very well, so just a little bit more water. There we go, good and fed. Recipe calls for warm water. I'm going to use Whey. My Whey has been refrigerated, so I'm going to nuke this for a little bit. While that's heating up, I'll put in the sugar. 1/4 cup total for me doubling the recipe. The Whey that I've just put out of the microwave is quite warm. You can probably see a little bit of steam. There are hot pockets in anything that you microwave. This isn't super duper hot at all. If it was super duper hot, that'd be bad. That would kill all the natural yeast that What's-Her-Face has worked so hard to capture for us. So I'm just gonna mix my sourdough starter, sugar, and Whey together. And now I need 500 grams or 4 cups plus 2 tablespoons of bread flour doubled. 3 teaspoons of salt. I'm gonna give this just a rough mix, and then we'll put the mixer to use. This is a more stiff dough than a regular bread dough. I have mixed this by hand before, and it is quite possible. It's just easier to use the mixer, a little bit easier on the elbows. Here's what the dough looks like right now. Now I can tell, because I've been using this mixer for a long time, that she's struggling. Now, KitchenAids just aren't what they used to be, and I feel like this is true for a lot of appliances lately. But when my mixer starts to struggle with this stiff dough, I do add just the tiniest bit of milk to help loosen things up a little bit. I keep saying that I don't want a Bosch mixer, and every time I use this for this specific dough, which I plan on doing for like every week or every other week, I question my choices. I've had this mixer for a long time, but it's not that I've used it just a whole lot for that long time, and I don't know, I'm not super impressed, especially for the price of these things. So if you have a Bosch, let me know how you like it. We're gonna let this dough rest for a little bit so the yeast can relax and the flour can rehydrate more, then we'll smooth it out. So we are officially in winter now. It's actually cold at night, and I don't have a trough with a trough heater in it anymore. I have a heated bucket, and I have a lot of goats in the barn, and they need that bucket filled several times a day. So we'll do that while the bread is doing its thing. And these are the leftovers from tonight. I made a broccoli cheddar soup in bread bowls. It was delicious. Lots of bread happening. Lots of bread, lots of dairy. Hey, sir. We came prepared. How you doing this evening? He loves the cool weather. Good evening, bunnies. Your water's still liquid. That's good. Hello, girls. You girls need some more water. 2 buckets. That'll basically be gone by morning. Guys got plenty of pellets. Yep. How are you, Chloe? You doing good? Yeah. She's never amused by my evening checks. Now where's Miss Molly? I'd like to check her. Blue Cactus Molly is due to kid first at the end of the month. There she is. Hey, girl. Her ligaments were strong as ever earlier. Hey, baby. How are ya? Can I feel your leggies? Super strong leggies. Very good. I wouldn't expect anything different from her right now. Not yet. Dog. Did you hear my KitchenAid going to fit?
Yeah.
It's also kind of smelling hot when I use it for bagel dough. Like it's struggling with something that I feel is super basic.
Yeah.
And it's making me mad. I'm just not sure that I feel ready to try to justify a $500 mixer just for bagels, you know?
That's a lot.
I know. I mean, that KitchenAid itself wasn't cheap.
No.
And I haven't used it to death for anything. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just strong arm the bagels. This is fine anyway. I have done it a bunch.
Burn your calories before consuming them.
There we go. Nice smooth ball. And this will rise overnight. Good morning. Look at how much our dough has risen. That is so incredible to me, especially when the house is cold like it has been lately. Again, I made a double batch of bagels here, so I'm going to separate out my bagel dough into 16 pieces. This isn't anything exact. It really doesn't matter. You don't have to pull out your kitchen scale. You can if you want to. I don't actually know how much each of these should weigh. The recipe book probably does say, but all I do is cut the dough in half and then cut each half in half until I get a roughly equal amount of dough in each of the 16 dough balls. The dough balls are then rolled up tightly and allowed to rest on the counter for about 10 minutes. This is going to help relax the gluten so that when we stretch out the hole in the center, things keep their shape and doesn't just shrink back down on itself. I think creating the bagel shape is one of my favorite parts of making bagels. You just poke your finger through and twirl it around between your fingers like so until the center hole is about the size of a golf ball. This will shrink down a little bit, especially when you put it in the oven, things are going to rise. We don't like the hole of our bagel to be super big, so golf ball size at this stage winds up being sometimes a closed hole in the bagel, and it does work fine as far as cooking goes. We don't get raw centers. The bagels at this stage are covered with a damp towel. I've got the oven preheating to 425, and these are going to rise for about 15 to 20, 25-ish minutes. Now this is the part that really makes a bagel a bagel. A lot of places will use a lye solution or some other alkali solution to create a crust. This particular recipe actually uses honey and it works very well. I've got my pot here halfway full of water, a good dollop of honey, and I'm going to heat that to boiling because each bagel needs to boil for about a minute on each side. I like to put in 3 bagels at a time and flip in between. When I put the bagels in, I tend to put them in upside down so that the bottom is facing upwards, so that when I flip them, the top is facing upwards, and when I remove them from the water, I can set them on the towel right side up, which helps make the top side of the bagel a little bit tacky so that my toppings will stick well. At this point, it's just rinse and repeat with all of the bagels until they are topped to our liking. We do have a few here that do not have any topping, so you'll be able to see how the plain ones turn out as well. Pop those in the preheated oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. I don't have to add any kind of non-stick parchment paper or anything like that to my pans, but my stoneware is very well seasoned. Be mindful that you may have a different experience depending on your pans. The recipe says to flip the bagels in the last 2 minutes to get them to brown on the bottom. Again, with my stoneware pans, I don't find that this is necessary, but you may want to incorporate that step. And this is what we have. Aren't they so gorgeous? This is another one of those things that I have not made often enough throughout the years that I definitely want to be making much more often. All right, so we are gonna cut into a bagel real soon. I'm just gonna let them cool slightly, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the cream cheese that we use, the Chev. This is just salted Chev. This is the one that we made the other day. And this is one that I pulled out of the freezer. This cheese does freeze really well. The only thing is it can get a little bit more crumbly once it's been in the freezer. And sometimes if it's been in the fridge a little while too. And the only thing you have to do to revive it is mix it with a splash of milk. It comes right back to life and spreads great. This one actually isn't too bad. It's actually spreading quite nicely. But I will add just a touch of milk. And to make the cream cheese taste more like what you get out of the package at the store, if you add a tiny bit of sugar, not a lot, just a little bit, that really helps bring it together and make it taste like the store-bought stuff. Beautiful. Beautiful. And bouncy, lovely. You could toast them at this point if you felt like it. We're just gonna eat them like this. Molly wants a sesame one. Just as beautiful on the inside. Cream cheese or butter?
Butter.
Okay, that's what I thought. So you can grow wheat, it takes a lot. Because the processing of the wheat is a lot.
That'd be cool to have my own bread though, even though it wouldn't last long, but I'd still say that I
It would be
my own
cool.
bread.
People do. They have small plots of wheat and they make a little bit of bread. Good morning. It's actually quite early and it's been a couple days since I picked up the camera. We are getting our new puppy. Not this weekend, but the weekend after. And so I've been spending a lot of time on the internet looking up puppy training videos and all that, and I've been stressing about the weather. So many of you know that there is a winter storm coming for kind of like the mid-south area all the way up through the East Coast. A lot of people will be impacted. They're saying that we could get a lot of snow, but also a lot of ice. We're kind of on that line where there's going to be a wintry mix, and so I've got my brain in preparedness mode. Part of that was getting this new device and testing it out before it's super cold, seeing what I think. This here on our outdoor hose spigot is called a freeze miser. And the reason I'm out here so early is because I wanted to get out here before the sun had a chance to really heat things up. Because I was really curious about how much water this would, you know, waste. Now, what this does, there's a little wax ring inside and it's temperature activated. So when the water gets below 37 degrees, that wax ring shrinks and allows a little bit of water to drip. This faucet is open, all the way open, but it's dripping just enough to help keep the line from freezing. And I guess the colder it gets, the more it will open, and at a certain point it's probably not worth it because it would drip a lot. I think it's 30 degrees this morning, which is nothing. It's going to be much colder, and in many areas of the country it is much colder than that, but this is the little drip we have this morning. And this is the amount of water that it collected overnight. Maybe a little less than a gallon probably. We are fortunate that we have a lot of water sources on our farm. When we moved here, we had that one spigot that's attached to the house. And then there is another one in the perennial garden. That one is a freeze-free hydrant. And a couple years after we moved here, we put in 3 more freeze-free hydrants. There's one at the barn, there's one at the greenhouse, and then there's one way back where the buck goats are. And I stuck one of those freeze misers on this back hydrant as well. And that sounds like it's running a little bit faster. Yep. So this is a freeze-free hydrant. Why would I put a freeze miser out here? Why would that be important? The concept behind a freeze-free hydrant is that when it is off, the water goes down below the frost level and stays liquid, so that when you open this back up, you have fresh water. What happens on our farm is this is the very end of the line, and this line snakes around the greenhouse. And we've got a hydrant behind the greenhouse, and then this hydrant goes through the pig pen or under the pig pen and into the barn area, and then from there it goes to the road where the water main is. And in the last couple of years, we have noticed that when we are below freezing for an extended period of time, which we are slotted to experience soon, we're not going to come up above freezing for over a week, and the nights are going to be single-digit temperatures, and that is unusual for this area. But when we have extended freezes like that, this will freeze. I won't get water out to the greenhouse, and I won't get water out here to the buck pen. It's not the worst. I have poured buckets of water in the past, and I may elect to doing that, because if we're getting this much drippage where it's not super cold right now, I hate to think about the flow that this freeze miser will have to have in order to keep the lines clear. One of the things I do like is the moving water in the trough is keeping this from freezing, so the boys would have full access to water. We're gonna get a lot of snow. I don't know how much they're going to really want to trek over here, so I'll probably be bailing water to them at their house anyway. So all that to say, I'm undecided, but these things exist. I got this on Amazon. It came in one day. The freeze miser. Liquid water here, and for contrast, the bucket back here. This is frozen by several inches. There is a little bit of pooling out here, and this is probably only going to get worse. I don't know. I'll keep you guys updated on this for sure. Oh, before we go to the rabbitry, I thought of something else. One of the main issues that I do have with these hydrants, even without the freeze miser on them, is when we get an icing event. If I don't remember to put a bucket or something upside down over the hydrant, the icing can either glue it open or glue it shut. So if I leave this on here and I don't cover anything, we're gonna have a ton of ice on here, probably to the point where I won't be able to unscrew this. The whole point isn't so that that stays on for the entire freezing event. The whole point is that I can shut this off, remove the freeze miser. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. My arm's about to get real cold, but I can open this all the way at that point and use the hydrant. Whew. Obviously that's not doable if everything is frozen together, so I want to avoid that as well. There's a lot to think about when you live in an area that doesn't freeze like this. One thing I'm slightly worried about is the greenhouse, not because anything real bad is gonna happen to it, but my greenhouse plastic is due to be replaced. It's pretty brittle in quite a few places. So yeah, I've already got a new crack right here. I don't know if you can tell the color difference, but there's a crack right there, and we're bound to get more cracks. The lifespan of greenhouse plastic is around 4 years. The UVs are just really intense. The greenhouse plastic is designed for that, but it has a finite lifespan anyway. But yeah, I am worried about the weight of the ice being a problem for the plastic, so it might be kind of interesting. We need to replace it anyway, just is what it is. Doesn't make it fun. Did you hear my neighbor's cow? I must be up before him. They're yelling at me. Good morning, buddy. Good morning. No, good morning. Good morning, girls. Lovely cold day to be resting outside. You guys are weird. Okay, one thing I would like to tackle this morning is rebreeding some rabbits. I was looking at my calendar this morning, and all of the mamas with bunnies are of the age where it is the time where we can rebreed the mamas. And I also have This rabbit back here, her name is Sausage. She had a failed litter this last time. She just happened to have them all over the wire, and they froze to death before I could get to them. So she's ready to be rebred as well. I am a little bit limited on my bucks. I don't have one buck for every doe, and really you shouldn't rebreed a buck within the same day. His fertility goes way, way down if he is used a lot like that. So we'll breed a couple today, and I'll breed a couple tomorrow. Hey, dude. There we go. Sausage is a very reliable rabbit. That mishap with her kits truly was that. It was just one of those weird flukes. It's not like her. Hey sir, I got one for you too. Perfect. That's what we like to see. Oh my goodness. No breeding issues today. A lot of times, because I don't see a lot of aggression with my does, once I see one fall off, I'll walk away. But you really want to have 3 fall offs or successful breedings with your does. Okay, she is gonna lift. But I was going to say that if you're seeing one lift of your doe, accepting the buck, but you're not really seeing a second one, a tip that I have is to just get her to move. A lot of times they can like freeze themselves in a corner, and if you kind of switch her position, a lot of times that fixes things. I don't know why. Something that I learned a while ago. You're such a good boy. They're fine. I promise. So wonderful. Bow and Sausage are both bred. Kits in 31 days. Okay. I've got to tuck her head so she doesn't freak out while we're walking. I'm a lot less nervous of getting bit in the side when I have my thick jacket on. Someone asked for an update on our outdoor cats, so I tried to include them in this video for you. We do have 4. There's one who has long hair. His name is Colby. He's a lot less likely to come around. He's kind of always been like that, but he's doing well too. Okay, so today looks like it's going to be a really nice day. Tomorrow, hopefully, is also a really nice day. We have 2 days to prepare for the weather that is coming. And day by day, they are, narrowing down the areas that are going to be hit the hardest with the weather. And honestly, in our area, it doesn't take much for our power to go out. So we're pretty much planning for our power to go out. And with the cold temps, it's a little bit scary, but we do have a heater inside our house. It's propane. We vent the house when we turn that on. So Levi's going to go get some propane today. I think he's going to go do an early feed run, but I do have overflow just in case. We have a ton of hay, which is great. And hopefully we can maintain running water. If I can't maintain it way out in the buck area, that's okay. I have it other places on the farm. We have been known to fill buckets in the tub inside the house and bail water out to the animals. So you do what you have to. But yeah, I'm going to end this here. It is a shorter video this week because I got distracted with learning how to train the new puppy that we have coming. But the main deal that I'm going to do today off camera is put Dumpling in the freezer. I could use her cage space during this cooler weather, and so it's just time for her to go. So yeah, I hope everyone stays warm and stays safe. Please don't drive out in the snow and ice if you don't have to. I'll see you guys again soon. 3 teaspoons of flour, 3 teaspoons of salt,